Hi everyone, I'm Wendy, and today I have 5 tips to help you start or maintain your whole food plant-based diet. Before we get into that, I also just wanted to say a quick thank you. I've been getting quite a lot of new subscribers lately, so thank you to those of you who have subscribed and everyone who comes back to watch videos. If you are new around here, this video will also kind of be a welcome and an introduction to my philosophy on a whole food plant-based diet. So let's get right into it. Tip number 1 I have is beans, greens, and grains. This is just a little saying that my mom and I came up with when we first went plant-based to help us come up with meal ideas. Before becoming plant-based, we would always throw meals together using our old staples. We would cycle between either chicken or fish or pork and the same few vegetables. But when we started eating a plant-based diet, sometimes we were a little lost and we weren't sure what to eat to make sure we were eating enough. A lot of times when you start a plant-based diet, people simply remove the animal products, but then they don't replace it with anything. So we started using the saying beans, greens, and grains to help us come up with meal ideas. So if you're tired at the end of the day and you're not sure what you're going to eat, you can simply look in your pantry to see what beans you have available, pick one of those, then add some greens and other vegetables, and finally pick a grain to go with it to round out your meal. Now, this isn't supposed to be a strict guide for what you have to eat at every meal. It's simply a quick formula to come up with a well-balanced meal. But you can adjust this to suit your needs. For example, if you have an allergy or a sensitivity, let's say you're allergic to beans. So instead of beans, you could use potatoes, greens, and grains. But finding a formula like this that works for you makes it really easy to throw together meals. And that brings me to tip number 2. Keep it simple. When we started eating a plant-based diet, we actually realized that we had such a variety of foods available to us. I started eating more and more different varieties of beans and grains that I even knew existed. But after a while, it might become overwhelming. You think you have to try all these new foods, but you really don't. It's a lot of fun to try all kinds of different foods, especially if you like variety and novelty in your diet. But if that starts to get overwhelming, keep it simple. Just stick with some basics. Find a few of your favorite foods and repeat those over and over. You don't have to be a gourmet chef and make fancy meals every time you sit down to eat. I mean, think about it. Before you went plant-based, were you trying to make a 5-star meal every night? Most people just have a handful of different meals that are their favorites, which they eat on rotation. And I recommend you continue to do that with your plant-based diet. Experiment a little with different recipes until you find your favorites, and then use those as your go-to meals. Another way to keep your diet simple is to standardize at least one meal in the day. I think breakfast is the easiest meal to standardize, and it really sets you up for a great day. For example, I eat oatmeal every single day. I batch cook it at the beginning of the week and eat it all week long. But you don't have to eat oatmeal for breakfast. Maybe you love tofu scramble. You could cook it up at the beginning of the week and eat it every morning. Or for a really quick breakfast, you could eat smoothies every day. But the idea is when you standardize your meal, it makes food prep really simple. You never have to worry about what you're going to eat. You always have it on hand and you always know you have something ready. You might think that this sounds boring, eating the same thing every day, especially if you're a novelty seeker in your diet. But you might be surprised that once you start eating the same thing every day, your body starts to crave it. If I go a day without my oatmeal, I really miss it and I want to eat it. Our bodies love routine, especially with what we're eating. It helps our digestive tract to keep moving smoothly. And so you'll find that your body starts to tell you it wants to eat that same breakfast every day. And it doesn't have to be boring. If you don't want to eat the exact same thing every day, you can switch it up a little bit. For example, with my oatmeal, I batch cook it plain, and then every day I can add different fruits. So even though I'm eating the same base meal, I get a lot of variety through the week. You could do the same thing with your smoothies or tofu scramble or whatever you decide to eat. Tip number 4 is to find a method that works for you so that you always have healthy food available. If you're familiar with Chef AJ, she always says if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. What she means is you need to keep a clean environment. So you want to keep the junk out of the house and always have healthy food on hand. There are 2 main ways to do this. You can either batch cook food or you can have really quick and easy throw together meals. I personally do a combination of both of these. Some people really love batch cooking and some people don't want anything to do with that, so they go with quick throw together meals. Both options work really well. I recommend trying each one out and find what works for you. With batch cooking, there are a couple of options. You can cook up complete meals that you freeze and you always have them ready to go, Or you can cook components of meals. I prefer that method. So for example, at the beginning of the week, you might cook up a big batch of rice, some kind of beans, and a bunch of potatoes. And then you have all of these components of meals that you can throw together into a quick meal. Whenever I'm making soups or stews, I always make a lot, so I can eat it that day and then I can freeze some for later. Some of my favorite meals to freeze are my Instant Pot curry and my cozy black-eyed pea stew. Most soups and stews freeze really well. I also love making big batches of bean patties to keep in the freezer. I'll link to a playlist with all of these recipes if you want to try them out. If batch cooking isn't really your thing, then I recommend having a few meals that you can throw together really quickly. You'll want to make sure that you have some pre-cooked grains, cans of beans, and frozen veggies on hand all the time so that you can make any kind of meal anytime. Some of my favorites are to simply take some kind of grain like quinoa, and then I'll rinse a can of beans, throw that on top with some salsa, and that's it. I might throw in some frozen veggies like frozen peppers and onions, and if I have potatoes on hand, that goes great with it as well. Another quick meal idea is to keep some SOS-free marinara sauces on hand. Add that to some pasta, again with some beans, frozen veggies, and anything else you want to flavor it up. If you love salads, you could always just make sure you have tons of fresh veggies in the fridge so you can always throw together a meal. I like to bulk up my salads, again, with grains and beans to make sure I'm fully satisfied. Again, it goes back to keeping it simple. Make everything as easy for yourself as possible. Keep lots of healthy foods on hand so you can always have a healthy meal ready. Finally, tip number 5 is to find some resources that really work for you to help you stick with your diet. There are so many different doctors and influencers who have their own idea about how to follow a plant-based diet. And that's great because we're all different. We all have different personalities and different methods work for each of us. The underlying idea of a whole food plant-based diet is basically the same no matter who you follow. You want to incorporate as many whole plant foods as possible and avoid processed foods. All of the extra nuances don't really matter. Find whichever method works for you. I've made several What I Eat in a Day videos following different plant-based doctors, such as Dr. McDougall, Dr. Furman, Dr. Greger, and more. I'll link to that playlist so you can watch them and hopefully it'll help you find a method that works for you. In my personal diet, I kind of pick and choose a little bit from each of them. I like to eat a variety of all different kinds of foods. So I eat beans, grains, starchy vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, and I eat a combination of cooked and raw foods. I do like to try to incorporate as much raw food as possible because it always makes me feel better. But I love cooked foods to help me feel really full and satiated. I hope these tips were helpful. Leave some comments down below to let me know your ideas for how to maintain your whole food plant-based diet. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you'll consider doing so. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.